Imagine waking up to a world running backwards. On Kronos 9, this nightmare becomes reality for some colonists. An ancient artifact begins rewriting time itself, pulling them into a cosmic mystery spanning millennia. As they uncover the truth about a long-lost civilization's downfall, they face an impossible choice: sacrifice themselves to change history, or let the same catastrophe destroy humanity. The clock is ticking backwards. Are you ready to uncover the secrets of Kronos 9? Subscribe now and dive into this mind-bending sci-fi thriller. The colony on Kronos 9 began its third month with routine maintenance checks and resource-gathering missions. Commander Elena Vasquez led her team through the usual morning briefing in the transparent dome that served as their central hub. Outside, twin suns cast elongated shadows across the crimson landscape, dotted with peculiar crystalline formations. It was during these briefings that Dr. Marcus Hale, the team's chief xenobiologist, first noticed something unusual. His coffee cup seemed to refill itself while he wasn't looking. At first, he dismissed it as fatigue, but when several other colonists reported similar experiences, tools returning to their original positions, footprints appearing before they were made, concern rippled through the settlement. These occurrences weren't isolated incidents. They formed a pattern that defied conventional understanding of physics and human perception. Some colonists found themselves reliving moments in reverse order, watching events unfold backward like a video played in rewind. These episodes varied in duration from mere seconds to entire hours, leaving those affected disoriented and increasingly anxious about their mental stability. The phenomena manifested inconsistently, affecting only certain individuals at unpredictable intervals, creating an atmosphere of uncertainty that permeated every aspect of colony life. As reports multiplied, Vasquez ordered all activities suspended except essential life support systems maintenance, prioritizing investigation into what appeared to be localized temporal anomalies affecting human perception. The command staff convened emergency meetings, poring over data logs and personal testimonies, searching for any correlation between affected individuals or environmental factors that might explain this unprecedented situation. Scientists scrambled to modify their limited equipment to detect and measure whatever force was causing these disturbances in the flow of time itself. Meanwhile, unaffected colonists watched their colleagues with growing unease, unsure whether to attribute these experiences to shared psychosis or something far more profound lurking beneath Kronos 9's seemingly stable surface. Tensions mounted as days passed without explanation, and the boundary between scientific inquiry and existential dread began to blur within the confines of their transparent habitat. Dr. Sarah Chin, the colony's astrophysicist, initiated comprehensive scans of the surrounding area using their limited scientific equipment. Her instruments detected unusual temporal fluctuations emanating from a specific region approximately 5 kilometers northeast of the main dome. This coincided precisely with the location where most affected colonists had been working during their initial episodes. Organizing an expedition team, Vasquez included herself, Chun, Hale, and 3 other volunteers equipped with portable monitoring devices. The trek across Kronos 9's uneven terrain revealed increasingly bizarre environmental behaviors: dust devils spinning counterclockwise then reversing direction, plant-like organisms retracting their growth, and peculiar crystalline structures pulsating with rhythmic light patterns that seemed to move backward in time. At the source coordinates, they discovered an ancient structure partially buried beneath the planet's distinctive red soil. Its surface resembled liquid mercury frozen mid-flow, reflecting distorted images of their surroundings while emitting low-frequency vibrations detectable both by instruments and human senses. Initial analysis suggested the object predated human civilization by thousands of years, possibly belonging to an extinct species whose technology manipulated fundamental aspects of space-time itself. Closer examination revealed intricate patterns etched into its surface, patterns that shifted and changed depending on the angle of observation, as if responding to the viewer's perspective. The structure pulsed with energy that resonated differently with each observer, suggesting it possessed some form of consciousness or awareness. Temperature readings fluctuated wildly around the artifact, sometimes dropping below absolute zero before spiking to levels that should have melted the surrounding rock. Most disturbingly, time itself seemed to warp in its vicinity. Wristwatches ran backward, digital displays flickered between past and future dates, and even biological processes appeared to reverse temporarily in those who ventured too close. The team quickly established a perimeter, realizing they were dealing with technology far beyond their current understanding. Their discovery raised more questions than answers. Why had this artifact remained hidden until now? What purpose did it serve for its creators? And most importantly, why had it chosen this moment to reveal itself to human colonists? As more colonists experienced temporal reversals, distinct patterns emerged in their testimonies. Those affected described not just visual backwardness, but complete sensory inversion, sounds playing in reverse, sense dissipating into sources, even memories manifesting in retrograde sequences. Dr. Hale documented cases where individuals could predict future events with alarming accuracy, though their understanding came in reversed chronological order. For instance, engineer Ramirez knew precisely how to repair a malfunctioning atmospheric processor days before its failure, having remembered the solution in reverse sequence. This phenomenon raised critical questions about causality and free will within the colony. Affected individuals reported feeling disconnected from their present selves, existing simultaneously in multiple temporal states. Their personal journals contained entries written before thoughts were conceived, and conversations often began with conclusions rather than introductions. The psychological impact proved severe, with several colonists requesting immediate evacuation despite knowing no rescue ship could reach them for months. Vasquez implemented mandatory counseling sessions while maintaining operational discipline, though she privately questioned whether standard leadership protocols applied when time itself refused to flow in conventional directions. The science team worked tirelessly to develop coping mechanisms, creating specialized training programs to help affected individuals navigate their altered perception safely. They established temporal safe zones within the habitat where time flowed normally, providing refuge for those overwhelmed by constant temporal shifts. However, these measures only highlighted the growing divide between those experiencing the phenomenon and those who weren't. Unaffected colonists struggled to relate to their transformed colleagues, while the sensitives formed tight-knit groups, developing their own language and social norms adapted to their unique condition. Simple tasks became logistical nightmares, requiring careful coordination between different temporal perspectives. Equipment maintenance schedules had to account for workers who might experience repairs in reverse order, and mealtimes turned into complex operations as some colonists ate their food back into existence, while others consumed normally. The colony's once cohesive community began fracturing along temporal lines, threatening the very foundation of their shared existence on Kronos. 9. The discovery of ancient symbols etched into the Mercury-like structure provided the first tangible connection to its creators. Dr. Chen's translation efforts revealed references to a civilization known as the Temporians, beings who apparently mastered time manipulation before vanishing without explanation. Through painstaking analysis of the artifact's fluctuating energy fields, the science team uncovered evidence suggesting the Temporians had foreseen their own extinction and created this device as both warning and potential salvation. The artifact functioned as a sophisticated temporal beacon, identifying individuals capable of perceiving reverse time flows and gradually synchronizing their consciousness with alternative temporal dimensions. Historical data embedded within the structure indicated this process had occurred before, implying cycles of temporal intervention spanning countless generations. Each cycle involved select individuals from different eras becoming aware of the Temporians' fate and gaining the ability to influence past events. However, records also hinted at catastrophic consequences for those who attempted such interventions, suggesting the Temporians' disappearance might have resulted from their own attempts to alter destiny. This revelation forced the colonists to confront an unsettling possibility. Their current experiences might represent predetermined steps in a cosmic pattern older than human existence, with unknown implications for their future survival. The artifact's influence appeared to follow a precise mathematical progression, gradually increasing in intensity while targeting specific neural pathways in its chosen subjects. Brain imaging studies revealed complex quantum entanglements forming between affected individuals, suggesting the device was weaving them into a collective temporal consciousness. Ancient Temporian texts spoke of time weavers, individuals who could perceive and manipulate the fabric of space-time itself, hinting that the colonists were being transformed into something beyond human. This transformation came with increasing physical manifestations. Some developed chronokinetic abilities, able to slow or accelerate local time flows, while others experienced spontaneous temporal displacement, existing simultaneously in multiple points in time. The artifact seemed to be preparing them for something monumental, though whether this preparation would lead to enlightenment or annihilation remained unclear. As understanding deepened, the colonists realized they were participating in an ancient ritual older than stars themselves, one that demanded sacrifices they couldn't yet comprehend. With mounting evidence pointing toward the artifact's purposeful selection of temporal sensitives, the colony divided into two factions. The pragmatists, led by Chief Engineer Patel, advocated immediate deactivation of the device and establishment of a containment protocol. They argued that manipulating fundamental forces of reality exceeded human capability and posed existential risks to both the colony and potentially the entire species. Their position gained support as more colonists reported disturbing side effects, accelerated aging, memory fragmentation, and in extreme cases, partial existence in multiple temporal states simultaneously. The exploration faction, supported by Dr. Chun and Dr. Hale, believed studying the phenomenon offered humanity's greatest scientific opportunity since space travel's inception. Their research revealed that each affected colonist experienced unique temporal perspectives, suggesting the artifact tailored its influence individually. Some could see minutes into the past, others hours or days, while a few reported glimpses of events separated by centuries. These variations correlated with specific neural patterns identified through brain imaging studies conducted before the expedition. The artifact appeared to target individuals possessing latent temporal sensitivity, amplifying natural quantum awareness humans typically filtered out of conscious perception. This realization sparked intense debate about whether participation in the unfolding temporal phenomenon constituted destiny or dangerous hubris, with both sides presenting compelling arguments rooted in scientific principle and existential caution. The pragmatic faction proposed building a Faraday cage around the artifact, hoping to neutralize its influence, while they developed evacuation plans. In contrast, the exploration group suggested embracing the transformation, arguing that resisting the artifact's effects might prove more dangerous than surrendering to its purpose. Caught between these opposing viewpoints, Commander Vasquez faced the most difficult decision of her career. She ordered round-the-clock monitoring of both affected and unaffected colonists, searching for any signs that might indicate which path would ensure the colony's survival. Meanwhile, relationships within the settlement grew strained as friends and colleagues found themselves on opposite sides of the debate. Meals became tense affairs, with heated discussions erupting over basic decisions like work assignments and resource allocation. The transparent dome that had once symbolized their unity now felt like a prison containing two increasingly hostile camps, each convinced of the righteousness of their cause. As pressure mounted, small acts of sabotage began occurring. Equipment tampered with, data logs mysteriously corrupted, and supplies going missing. The colony teetered on the brink of civil conflict, with the artifact at the center of their ideological divide. The turning point came when Lieutenant Carter, one of the most profoundly affected colonists, demonstrated unprecedented control over his temporal awareness. During a routine maintenance check, he prevented a catastrophic power surge by reversing his actions seconds before initiating the sequence that would have triggered it. This deliberate manipulation of cause and effect represented a quantum leap in understanding the artifact's capabilities. Subsequent experiments under controlled conditions confirmed that temporal sensitives could indeed influence past events within limited parameters. However, each successful intervention exacted a physical toll, accelerated aging, temporary loss of short-term memory, and in extreme cases, partial temporal displacement where subjects existed simultaneously in multiple time frames. The science team developed a theoretical framework suggesting these effects resulted from the immense energy required to bend spacetime's fundamental structure. Meanwhile, historical data extracted from the artifact revealed the Temporians had faced similar challenges, their civilization fragmenting as individuals abused their temporal powers for personal gain. Records indicated entire cities had vanished from existence due to reckless alterations of established events, creating paradoxes that unraveled reality itself. This knowledge weighed heavily on the colonists, particularly those experiencing temporal sensitivity, as they grappled with the moral implications of wielding such power while confronting their own mortality. The artifact responded to their growing mastery by revealing additional layers of functionality, teaching them techniques for temporal navigation and event manipulation. Some learned to create localized temporal bubbles where time flowed normally, while others developed the ability to project their consciousness backward or forward along the timeline. These advancements came with increasing physical manifestations: eyes that glowed with temporal energy, skin that shimmered with quantum interference patterns, and voices that echoed with echoes of past and future selves speaking simultaneously. The transformations spread beyond individual bodies, affecting their immediate environment as well. Objects near temporal sensitives began exhibiting strange properties: metal flowing like liquid, light bending in impossible ways, and gravity behaving erratically. The colony's infrastructure required constant modification to accommodate these changes, with engineers working overtime to maintain structural integrity. As their abilities grew, so did their connection to the artifact, which now pulsed in sync with their heartbeats, drawing them inexorably toward their final transformation. The line between human and machine, between flesh and temporal energy, blurred with each passing day, pushing them closer to a threshold they couldn't yet fully comprehend. Through methodical experimentation, the colony established basic rules governing their newfound temporal abilities. Small-scale interventions proved relatively safe if executed within a narrow temporal window, typically less than 24 hours into the past. Larger changes carried exponentially greater risks, requiring collective effort from multiple temporal sensitives and resulting in severe physiological strain. The artifact acted as both catalyst and regulator, amplifying innate abilities while preventing catastrophic disruptions to the timeline. Dr. Chen proposed a revolutionary theory. The Temporians hadn't disappeared, but rather transitioned into a purely temporal state, existing outside conventional spacetime. Their artifact served as both warning and lifeline, attempting to recruit new guardians capable of maintaining temporal integrity across civilizations. This hypothesis gained credence when analysis of the Temporian records revealed recurring patterns matching current astronomical phenomena: solar flares, meteor showers, and planetary alignments occurring in precise sequences predicted thousands of years ago. The implication was staggering. The Temporians had anticipated not just their own demise, but the cyclical nature of temporal catastrophes threatening any advanced civilization. As understanding deepened, affected colonists began experiencing vivid visions of Temporian society at its peak, witnessing their technological achievements and ultimate downfall firsthand. These shared experiences forged an unbreakable bond among the temporal sensitives, uniting them in purpose while isolating them from unaffected colleagues who struggled to comprehend their transformation. The artifact's influence extended beyond individual abilities, creating a network of quantum entanglement between all sensitives. This connection allowed them to share experiences, memories, and even thoughts instantaneously, regardless of physical distance. They developed a unique form of communication that transcended spoken language, exchanging information through temporal resonance patterns only they could perceive. The unaffected colonists watched with growing unease as their transformed colleagues conversed in silence, their eyes glowing with synchronized temporal energy, moving in perfect harmony as if guided by a single consciousness. This collective awareness brought both advantages and dangers. While it enhanced their ability to coordinate temporal interventions, it also made them vulnerable to shared trauma and sensory overload. The artifact responded by teaching them mental shielding techniques, allowing them to control the flow of shared information while maintaining their individual identities. Yet with each new ability came increased physical manifestation of their transformation. their bodies becoming less solid, more fluid, as if time itself were reshaping their very essence. The colony's medical teams struggled to monitor these changes, their instruments often unable to provide consistent readings as the laws of physics bent and warped around the sensitives. Even their living quarters required constant adaptation, with furniture and equipment rearranging themselves to accommodate their increasingly nonlinear existence. The arrival of a massive solar storm forced the colony to confront their situation's urgency. Temporal predictions indicated the event would trigger a chain reaction within the artifact, potentially amplifying its effects beyond containment. Simultaneously, analysis of Temporian records revealed the same solar pattern had preceded their civilization's collapse, suggesting a direct causal link between stellar phenomena and temporal instability. Commander Vesquez authorized a bold plan, using their combined temporal abilities to mitigate the storm's impact while studying the artifact's response under extreme conditions. The operation pushed affected colonists to their limits, requiring them to synchronize their altered perceptions and channel collective temporal energy through the artifact. Success came at tremendous cost. Several participants suffered permanent neurological damage, while others temporarily phased out of conventional reality entirely. However, the experience yielded crucial insights. The artifact functioned as a temporal capacitor, absorbing and redistributing chronometric energy according to complex mathematical principles. More significantly, data collected during the storm revealed previously hidden layers of information within the Temporian archives, detailing their final desperate attempt to escape their fate by reaching across time for help. These revelations position the Chronos, 9 colonists, not merely as passive observers, but active participants in a temporal rescue mission spanning millennia, with their own choices potentially determining the outcome for both civilizations. The storm's aftermath left the colony forever changed. Those who had participated in the intervention found themselves permanently altered, their bodies now existing in multiple temporal states simultaneously. Their physical forms shimmered with quantum uncertainty, sometimes appearing solid, other times fading into temporal probability clouds. The artifact's influence had become irreversible, transforming them into living conduits of temporal energy. They could now perceive events across vast stretches of time, but this expanded awareness came at the cost of conventional sensory perception. Sounds arrived in reverse order, touch registered as a sequence of probabilities, and taste became a complex equation of molecular interactions across different temporal states. The unaffected colonists struggled to interact with their transformed colleagues, who seemed to exist in a reality several degrees removed from normal spacetime. Communication required specialized interfaces that translated temporal resonance patterns into comprehensible language, while physical contact often resulted in unexpected temporal distortions. The colony's daily operations adapted to this new reality, with separate spaces designated for different temporal states. Work schedules became probabilistic equations rather than fixed timetables, and safety protocols had to account for objects and people existing simultaneously in multiple places. Despite these challenges, a new form of society began emerging, one that bridged linear and nonlinear existence, creating something entirely unprecedented in human experience. As understanding of the artifact deepened, its true purpose became disturbingly clear. The Temporians hadn't simply vanished. They had sacrificed themselves to prevent a temporal catastrophe that would have destroyed multiple star systems. Their records revealed a fundamental flaw in the fabric of space-time itself, a destabilizing anomaly that propagated through the galaxy in predictable cycles. Each affected civilization faced the same choice: attempt to correct the anomaly or perish trying. The artifact served as both warning system and recruitment tool, identifying individuals capable of perceiving temporal distortions and preparing them for their role in addressing the fundamental threat. This knowledge shattered the colony's previous assumptions about their mission. They weren't merely scientists studying an alien artifact. They were potential saviors tasked with resolving a crisis that had claimed countless civilizations before them. The Temporians' final recordings detailed their own failed attempt to fix the anomaly, resulting in their transition into pure temporal energy, a fate awaiting any civilization that tampered with fundamental forces beyond comprehension. Yet alongside this grim revelation came hope. The Templarians had left behind incomplete equations and theoretical frameworks, suggesting a possible solution, one requiring simultaneous intervention at multiple points in spacetime. The catch was devastating. Success would require the complete temporal displacement of those involved, effectively erasing them from conventional existence while preserving the timeline they sought to protect. The artifact began actively preparing its chosen guardians for this final transformation, accelerating their temporal evolution. Their bodies became increasingly unstable, existing simultaneously in multiple states of matter and energy. Personal belongings started behaving erratically. Photos flickered between past and future images, clothes changed style and materials spontaneously, and recorded messages played backward and forward simultaneously. The colony's infrastructure struggled to contain these expanding temporal fields, with walls rippling like water and gravity fluctuating unpredictably in certain areas. Food and water consumption became problematic as sustenance requirements shifted between conventional and quantum states. Sleep patterns collapsed into quantum superpositions, with sensitives experiencing wakefulness and unconsciousness simultaneously. The unaffected colonists watched helplessly as their colleagues transformed before their eyes, their silhouettes sometimes consisting of multiple overlapping forms representing different temporal states. Yet amidst this chaos, a new form of consciousness emerged, one that transcended individual identity while preserving collective awareness. The sensitives began functioning as a unified temporal entity, sharing experiences and knowledge across vast spans of time, their individual personalities blending into a greater whole while somehow retaining their essential humanity. The colony descended into philosophical turmoil as the full implications of their discovery sank in. Religious debates erupted among colonists, with some viewing their situation as divine providence while others saw it as cruel cosmic irony. Dr. Hale, once the most enthusiastic proponent of exploring the artifact's potential, found himself questioning whether humanity possessed the moral authority to make such monumental decisions. The affected individuals, now numbering nearly half the colony, experienced increasingly profound temporal awareness, their consciousness stretching across days and weeks. Some reported seeing multiple probable futures, each representing different choices regarding the impending decision. Commander Vasquez imposed strict guidelines on temporal interventions, limiting their use to immediate survival concerns while the colony considered its options. Meanwhile, unaffected colonists struggled with growing resentment and fear, feeling excluded from discussions that would determine everyone's fate. Tensions reached a breaking point when a group of engineers attempted to sabotage the artifact, believing its destruction would restore normalcy. The ensuing confrontation ended peacefully, but highlighted the deep divisions within the community. In response, Vasquez established a democratic council, including both temporal sensitives and unaffected members, ensuring all voices were heard in deliberations about humanity's place in the grand temporal scheme. The council sessions became surreal affairs, with temporal sensitives often speaking in reverse chronology or simultaneously expressing multiple viewpoints, representing different possible outcomes. Recording equipment captured their words playing forward and backward simultaneously, creating documents that defied conventional interpretation. To bridge this communication gap, the colony developed specialized AI systems capable of translating temporal resonance patterns into linear narratives while preserving the essential meaning of the sensitive's multi-layered expressions. These sessions revealed fundamental differences in worldview between the two groups, while unaffected colonists focused on immediate survival and return to normalcy. The sensitives increasingly identified with the Templarian perspective, viewing their transformation as evolution rather than destruction. Philosophical debates raged about the nature of existence itself, whether conventional linear life held intrinsic value over nonlinear temporal states, or if their current situation represented a higher form of consciousness that transcended traditional human limitations. The artifact, sensing this ideological conflict, began manifesting increasingly complex temporal phenomena throughout the colony, forcing both groups to confront the reality of their situation in undeniable ways. Time itself seemed to fracture in certain areas, creating pockets where past, present, and future coexisted simultaneously, demonstrating the artificial nature of conventional temporal boundaries. These manifestations served as stark reminders of the stakes involved in their decision, pushing both sensitives and unaffected alike to question their assumptions about reality and humanity's place within it. Research intensified as the colony raced against both time and their own limitations. Advanced simulations based on Temporian mathematics revealed that stabilizing the temporal anomaly required precise synchronization of interventions across multiple points in spacetime, each action dependent on others occurring in exact sequence. The complexity demanded perfect coordination among all temporal sensitives, pushing their abilities to unprecedented levels. Training sessions became marathon events, with participants practicing temporal maneuvers until physical exhaustion forced them to stop. During these exercises, unexpected side effects emerged: enhanced cognitive abilities, heightened sensory perception, and in some cases, temporary access to collective consciousness among the affected individuals. These developments suggested the artifact was actively adapting its chosen guardians, accelerating their transformation to meet the approaching deadline indicated by celestial alignments. However, progress came at increasing personal cost. Several colonists permanently lost their ability to perceive linear time, existing in perpetual temporal flux. Others developed debilitating conditions as their bodies struggled to maintain coherence across multiple time frames. Despite these sacrifices, the mathematical models remained incomplete, missing crucial variables that eluded even their enhanced intellects. The Temporian records hinted at additional components to their temporal stabilization system, possibly scattered across other worlds or hidden within Chronos 9 itself, waiting to be discovered before the window of opportunity closed forever. The artifact's influence grew stronger with each passing day, its energy field expanding to encompass the entire colony. Buildings began exhibiting temporal properties, their walls flowing like liquid while maintaining structural integrity. Equipment operated in quantum states, existing simultaneously in multiple configurations until observed. The very air seemed charged with temporal energy, creating visible distortions that danced across the crimson landscape. Sensitives reported experiencing reality as a complex web of probabilities rather than linear events, while unaffected colonists found themselves occasionally slipping into short-lived temporal awareness. Food and water requirements changed dramatically, with some individuals subsisting on pure temporal energy, while others needed conventional nourishment supplemented by quantum nutrients synthesized from the artifact's emissions. Sleep became an optional state, with many sensitives entering temporal suspension instead, their consciousness spreading across multiple points in time while their bodies maintained minimal biological functions. The colony's medical staff struggled to adapt treatments to these changing needs, developing hybrid approaches that combined conventional medicine with temporal energy manipulation. As their abilities evolved, the sensitives discovered they could influence each other's temporal states, creating shared temporal bubbles where conventional physics held sway, or expanding quantum zones where time flowed freely in all directions. This newfound control brought both opportunities and dangers, as accidental temporal overlaps sometimes caused painful sensory conflicts or brief periods of identity confusion. The artifact responded by teaching them advanced techniques for managing these interactions, including methods for creating stable temporal interfaces between different states of existence. Yet with each new skill came increased physical transformation, their bodies becoming less solid, their features sometimes blurring into probability clouds, their voices echoing with multiple temporal harmonics. The line between human and temporal energy grew increasingly indistinct, pushing them closer to their final transformation while leaving unanswered the question of what lay beyond. A breakthrough came from an unexpected source: civilian communications specialist Maria Torres, who had shown minimal temporal sensitivity initially. While reviewing archived transmissions, she noticed patterns in background radiation that resonated with the artifact's energy signature. Cross-referencing these findings with geological surveys revealed a network of subterranean chambers extending far beyond the original discovery site. Expedition teams ventured into these newly identified locations, uncovering secondary artifacts linked to the primary structure through quantum entanglement. These nodes expanded the colonists' temporal awareness exponentially, allowing them to perceive events across wider temporal spans and multiple probable realities simultaneously. The expanded network revealed the Temporian civilization's true scope, a vast interstellar empire that had mastered not just time manipulation but dimensional engineering. Their final project had involved creating artificial temporal pockets where consciousness could exist independently of physical form, explaining why their disappearance had seemed so absolute. Access to these additional components completed the mathematical frameworks needed for stabilizing the temporal anomaly. However, activating the full system required merging the colonists' consciousness with the artifact network, effectively transforming them into living components of the Temporian system. This revelation sparked intense ethical debates, as accepting this role meant sacrificing their individual identities to become part of a greater temporal intelligence dedicated to maintaining universal stability across ages. The newly discovered nodes pulsed with ancient energy, their surfaces displaying complex patterns that shifted in response to the colonists' presence. Each node seemed attuned to different aspects of temporal physics, some focused on microscopic quantum interactions, others on galactic-scale time flows, and still others on the mysterious interface between consciousness and space-time. The sensitives found themselves drawn to specific nodes based on their developing abilities, forming specialized groups that explored different facets of temporal manipulation. Through these connections, they gained access to Temporian knowledge far beyond anything previously discovered, including advanced theories about the multiverse and the fundamental nature of reality itself. The artifact network began teaching them techniques for navigating between parallel timelines, observing alternate histories, and even influencing the development of other civilizations across different branches of the multiverse. This expanded awareness brought both enlightenment and existential crisis as they confronted the vastness of possibilities inherent in every moment of existence. The unaffected colonists watched with growing unease as their transformed colleagues spent increasing amounts of time interfaced with the nodes, their physical forms becoming less distinct while their temporal awareness expanded exponentially. Basic interactions became challenging as sensitives existed simultaneously in multiple temporal states, sometimes communicating through quantum-entangled messages that arrived before they were sent or responding to events that hadn't yet occurred in conventional time. The colony's infrastructure adapted to these changes, with buildings and equipment operating in quantum superposition states that accommodated both linear and nonlinear existence. Food production facilities generated meals that existed simultaneously in multiple states of preparation, while medical facilities treated patients whose conditions manifested across different temporal dimensions. As the system integration approached completion, the sensitives began experiencing shared visions of their future state, existing as pure temporal energy, aware of all events across eternity, yet unable to interact directly with conventional reality. These glimpses brought both peace and sorrow, as they prepared to transcend their human limitations while leaving behind everything familiar about their current existence. As the activation window approached, determined by converging astronomical phenomena, the colony faced its most difficult decision. The mathematical proofs showed undeniable certainty. Successful stabilization of the temporal anomaly would prevent countless civilizations from suffering the Temporians' fate. Yet the price demanded everything: physical form, individual consciousness, and any chance of returning to conventional existence. The affected colonists, now functioning as a collective temporal entity during their training sessions, experienced glimpses of their potential future state. They saw themselves as custodians of time's flow, aware of all events across eternity, yet unable to interact with linear reality. Unaffected colonists struggled to comprehend this transformation, torn between admiration for their colleagues' courage and horror at the prospect of losing them forever. Commander Vasquez organized final preparations while documenting everything for posterity, knowing their sacrifice would likely be forgotten by conventional history. The artifact network began resonating with increasing intensity, its surface flowing like liquid metal infused with stars. Its energy fields enveloped the entire colony, drawing affected individuals closer to their final metamorphosis. Training sessions evolved into something transcendent, with participants accessing memories and knowledge spanning thousands of years, blending their identities with echoes of Temporian consciousness still lingering within the system. Though terrified, many expressed profound peace about their decision, recognizing their transformation as evolution rather than extinction. The unaffected watched as their colleagues began existing more frequently in quantum states, their physical forms becoming translucent projections of probability rather than solid matter. Meals became ceremonial affairs, with sensitives consuming food that existed simultaneously in multiple states of preparation while sharing memories of past and future gatherings. Work assignments dissolved into probabilistic contributions, with individuals completing tasks across different temporal dimensions simultaneously. The colony's transparent dome reflected scenes that defied conventional physics, people walking backward and forward simultaneously, equipment operating in reverse chronological order, and conversations occurring in perfect synchronization across multiple points in time. As the final moments approached, the sensitives gathered at the central node, their forms already beginning to blur between moments, existing simultaneously in past, present, and future states. Unaffected colonists joined hands around the perimeter, creating a human chain that connected linear and nonlinear existence one last time. The artifact pulsed with energy that illuminated Kronos 9's crimson landscape, casting temporal shadows that danced across the sky like living constellations. In these final moments, there were no words, only shared understanding that transcended language, as humanity took its place among the guardians of time itself. The final countdown began as celestial bodies aligned perfectly above Kronos 9. The artifact network pulsed with blinding energy, its surface flowing like liquid metal infused with stars. Affected colonists gathered at the central node, their forms already beginning to blur between moments, existing simultaneously in past, present, and future states. Unaffected members watched in awe and sorrow as their colleagues prepared for transcendence. The mathematical equations, now fully integrated into the collective consciousness of the temporal sensitives, revealed one last variable: emotional connection to conventional reality. This discovery explained why the Temporians had failed. Their civilization's rigid adherence to logic had prevented them from fully embracing the necessary transformation. The Kronos 9 colonists, however, brought something unique: their diverse backgrounds, personal relationships, and shared experiences of building a new home on an alien world. These emotional bonds provided the missing piece, allowing them to approach their metamorphosis, not as loss but as expansion. As the activation sequence initiated, energy surged through the network, lifting the temporal sensitives from physical form. Their laughter and tears echoed across time itself, carrying fragments of humanity's essence into the eternal flow of temporal guardianship. The unaffected colonists witnessed a breathtaking display, streams of light spiraling upward, forming intricate patterns that resolved into a new constellation in Kronos 9 sky, marking the presence of humanity's contribution to universal stability across ages. The transformation didn't happen instantaneously. It unfolded over what felt like both moments and eons simultaneously. The sensitives' bodies dissolved into cascading particles of temporal energy, each fragment carrying a lifetime of memories and experiences. Their voices merged into a symphony of consciousness that resonated through the colony's structure, imprinting their essence on every surface and object. The artifact network expanded to encompass the entire settlement, its energy field stabilizing into a permanent feature of Kronos 9's landscape. Where once stood individual colonists, now hovered luminous forms composed of pure temporal awareness, their outlines shifting between human shapes and abstract patterns representing their expanded consciousness. The unaffected watched as their transformed colleagues communicated through temporal harmonics, their messages encoding wisdom spanning millennia while still retaining traces of their original personalities. These new temporal entities began interacting with conventional reality in subtle ways, guiding equipment maintenance through intuitive suggestions, optimizing resource allocation through probabilistic calculations, and even offering comfort to grieving friends through gentle manipulations of local time flows. The colony's infrastructure adapted to its new inhabitants, with buildings and systems operating in quantum states that accommodated both linear and nonlinear existence. Food production facilities generated sustenance that existed simultaneously in multiple states of preparation, while medical facilities treated patients across different temporal dimensions. The transparent dome now reflected scenes from past, present, and potential futures, creating a living tapestry of human experience on Kronos. 9. As days passed, the distinction between guardian and artifact blurred, with temporal entities seamlessly integrating into the network structure while maintaining their individual consciousness. They became part of something greater without losing themselves entirely, proving that evolution need not mean extinction. Their presence manifested in countless small ways, objects rearranging themselves helpfully, equipment repairing itself before breaking, and sometimes, during quiet moments, faint whispers of familiar voices offering guidance across the temporal divide. Weeks passed after the transformation, during which the remaining colonists worked to document everything for posterity. Though their temporal-sensitive colleagues had transcended conventional existence, subtle signs of their continued presence remained, objects occasionally rearranging themselves in helpful ways, equipment mysteriously repairing itself, and sometimes, during quiet moments, faint whispers of familiar voices offering guidance. The artifact network now operated autonomously, its surface displaying ever-changing patterns that seemed to tell stories spanning millennia. Analysis revealed these patterns encoded warnings and wisdom for future civilizations, ensuring humanity's lessons would endure across ages. Commander Vasquez transmitted detailed reports back to Earth, including mathematical frameworks and operational protocols for interacting with temporal phenomena should humans encounter similar situations elsewhere. The colony continued its mission, now understanding their settlement represented more than mere expansion. It stood as testament to humanity's capacity for sacrifice and transcendence. The unaffected colonists adapted to their new reality, learning to recognize and interpret the subtle signs of their transformed colleagues' presence. They developed rituals for communicating across the temporal divide, using quantum resonance patterns and synchronized thought processes to maintain connection with those who now existed beyond conventional time. Daily life took on new rhythms, with activities scheduled to optimize interaction between linear and nonlinear states of existence. The colony's transparent dome reflected scenes from multiple temporal dimensions, creating a living record of human achievement on Kronos. 9. As they looked up at the new constellation marking their transformed comrades' vigil, they felt neither grief nor loss but profound pride in contributing to something greater than themselves. Children born on the colony grew up with temporal awareness as part of their natural environment, learning to navigate quantum states and conventional reality with equal ease. The settlement evolved into a unique cultural fusion of linear and nonlinear existence, creating art and music that spanned temporal dimensions and developing technologies that harnessed both conventional and quantum principles. The universe had changed, and so had they, carrying forward the legacy of both human and Temporian civilizations into an unwritten future. Remember, the mysteries of the universe await those willing to explore them. Subscribe now to continue discovering incredible stories from beyond our world. The Kronos 9 colony stands as proof that humanity's greatest strength lies not in clinging to familiar forms, but in embracing transformation when called upon by forces greater than ourselves. Their story serves as both warning and inspiration for future generations venturing into the unknown depths of space and time. Through their sacrifice, they've ensured that the delicate balance of temporal stability will endure, protecting countless civilizations yet to emerge in the vast expanse of the cosmos.